Assalamu alaikum dear students, I am back here with an episode of paper 1, details about what the paper comprises, and then later I'll be talking about how you can successfully attempt the paper 1, which is the reading paper, in order to get the committed desired A star course code 1123. So before starting in, don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you are new to it, so you can get a complete crash course designed by me here on English with Palvasha. Okay, so when we talk about paper 1, so you could recall, like, if I did take you to the paper pattern initially in my first video, and there we did touch upon the pattern of this paper, and now we'll be talking about it in detail here. Obviously, I am presenting my screen to you, and the whole thing, you have to be very much focused about it, that what I'm talking about, because through this video I assure you that if you're going to watch this video till the end, you'll be successfully acknowledged about the paper 1 which is a reading paper, and till the end you will get to know that which part is the most significant part. Obviously the whole paper is extremely significant, but there are few sections which you need to work on so as to get a particular desired grade, right? So let's get started. Now I'm presenting my screen here, and this is section A. Here it is comprises of 2 sections itself, right? And it's basically a 50 marks paper. Again, write it. The paper is going to be of 50 marks, as I told you previously as well, and the time allowed here is going to be 2 hours, right? So 2 hours, a huge great time, so you can work on it. So section A is comprehension. This section A is basically comprehension and use of language. So there are 2 aspects to it: comprehension and use of language. Comprehension and use of language. When we talk about comprehension specifically, it's the marks short questions or series of short questions based on a text, and then use of language is another 9 marks of short questions again. Then it is also based on the same text, and this leads to it being a 25 marks questions, right? This is going to be a 16 marks, and this is going to be 9. So then it's total 16 plus 9 makes a whole sum of 25 marks, right? So you need to work on this comprehension part. You'll be doing the comprehension from your beginning, from your lower grades, and you are extremely aware about what it is, but entirely in this O-levels English, it is entirely different. It's a bit challenging, and the use of language, of course, this is something extremely significant and mandatory, that the use of language and the choice of words should be in accordance to it, right? So let's move on to the section B. Section B is again divisible into 2 questions. One is the summary, and the summary question, which carries of course altogether the sum of 20 marks, and then comes the short responses, right? Short responses again means short responses, so it's based on the same given text, and this is again comprises of 5 marks. So then it makes a sum of 20 plus 5, 25. I've already discussed this whole thing earlier in the previous video, in my initial video, but here I'm grading it according to the sections, so as to make you clear that which part creates weightage. So you need to work on that specific part more vigorously, right? So this is going to be a sum of 25 marks, and 25 marks makes a whole to 50 marks, right? Now you got a gist of how is actually it is. Let's move on to the next slide. So the section A is the comprehension and use of language, right? Comprehension and use of language. So this particular section will have a text for it and will include short questions given, which will test both your explicit and implicit understanding. Let me just mention it here. The explicit and your implicit understanding. So explicit, from the word you get to know that it is actually, you know, the clear and in detail meaning. So explicit goes into the detail, something which is, you know, asked in detail, right? Stated clearly in detail and leaving no room for confusion or doubt, right? Something which is clearly, you have to explicitly explain it, right? And when it comes to the implicit meanings, then definitely it's going to be a deep meaning of something, right? When you're going to express, but it is implied meaning, so it's a deep meaning. And implied meaning, I must say, an implied meaning, if we'll go more detail into it, so always to be found and essentially connected with something, you know, indirect, I must say, indirect, something which is, you know, which we have to talk about it indirectly. So it's an indirect meaning, right? So these are the two things which you know, we have to talk about in here, right? Something which is, you know, which we have to talk about it indirectly. So it's an indirect meaning, right? So these are the two things which you know, we have to talk about in here, right? And so basically explicit and implicit understanding of the text and the attitudes that the writer has, you know, talked to display in the context of that particular passage, right? So now let's move on to the next slide and talk about it. So here I have mentioned in detail the section A, comprehension, you know, and use of language types of questions. What are the types of questions which are being asked, you know, which we are expecting in this particular section? And the first one is here, it is literal, then comes inferential. You need to be very much aware about the types. Then comes the rephrasing and own words questions. Then there are, you know, the pick out a word or a phrase type of questions. And then this last part, I, you know, stress on it again that it's a writer's craft, meaning and effect kind of questions, right? So I'll be definitely explaining you in detail which is the most significant type in it, but let's just, you know, these are basically the various types of comprehension questions that the examiner would keep in mind while setting you section A of paper 1. So let's just go a bit into each type that is mentioned here, right? So the first one here is the literal questions. Now the answer is given here in the text and you just have to read in it. So here I'm just going to mention that the answers are in this type. The answers are already given in the text, right? You just have to, you know, read it and write it and extract the answers from the given text. You just have to read and take it out, right? Now comes the inferential. Inferential means, infer means basically to guess something, right? When you guess something, so it means that the answer is to be dug deep from the text. You have to actually, you know, delve into the text to get the inferential answers. All right, here you are going to delve into the text and then as to see what the writer wants exactly, and by sticking to the point, extract that particular text and then write it, right? Then comes rephrasing. It is a very, you know, common and easy part of the comprehension use of language part, and that rephrasing means using synonyms, right? So you all are might aware about what are the synonyms. So I must say, avoid using the vague kind of words, you know, the simple synonyms of the words, and the choice of words should be quite critical and crucial so as to impress the reader, right? So synonyms and synonymous expressions, so whatever the question would be, there would be two things to it and two limbs, you must say, two words or two phrases to be recasted, and you have to rephrase them in your own words and get 2 marks, as such questions carry. Such questions carry only, kind of 2 marks, I must say, right? So this is something you have to do, but of course each marks count and worth it. You have to work on every single part and do it with wholeheartedly. Then comes pick out a phrase. So here, pick out a word or a phrase means that these are kind of quotation questions. These are kind of quotation questions in which the reader actually expects you to pick out a detail or a word or a phrase that means like another things or that means the same. This is where you have to quote and extract the specific quote out of it, and then just write it, right? So then comes the last and the most significant part, the most challenging, I must say. I need to write it here that this is the most challenging part. So let me just take you deep into it and take this part seriously. As earlier in the previous paper pattern, it was of 4 marks, right? And now the examiner has basically increased it to how much marks? 9 marks. 9 marks. So paper pattern has changed, so it is raised to the 9 marks for the writer's craft questions. So it is a very important, my dear students, that have to practice it more rigorously, and then we would have expected the previous 11 and the previous O-levels batches to do, and you have to be very careful to do the same. Answer, what does it expect to do, what the writer wants you to do, as against the other 4 types. This particular type of question demands you to comment on the writer's, basically this demands to comment on the writer's use of language in a word, in an expression, what he meant, what he's suggesting, why this word, not another word, and it is more like a critique. So those of you who have already opted for English literature would also understand where I'm coming from, and you are given a critique as a critic. So as a critic, you have to explain that why the writer has used a particular word or what effect he has used, right? Okay, so when we talk about writer's effect and questions, so there are some rules which I made to remember, which not I made, basically the O-levels English Cambridge made, and which I'm going to notify here. These are extremely significant rules to ponder upon, and the first one is the meaning, and then comes for effect. So let's just delve into it to explain you, and if we'll deluge into it, so I'll explain you that when we talk about writer's effect questions, which is 9 marks now, so for meaning would be that how they occur, basically how they occur. So in the meaning, you have to explain the use of synonyms for the words in the given phrase or rephrase it. It is not actually the use synonyms for the words. Yes, of course you have to use the synonyms for the words in the given phrase, and you have to rephrase it, but the game doesn't end here. In terms of sense in the context, that is more like the contextual context. For effect, for basically meaning, first let me talk about it. Here you have to rephrase it, and your choice of words should be extremely crucial, and you have to rephrase it in a extremely crucial manner, and your choice of words should be quite exemplary, I must say, and otherwise you're not going to get a good score. If you really want a good score, then make it exemplary, right? It should be exemplary. And then comes the for effect. This is something where the last part I go back, this writer's craft, meaning and effect. Meaning creates a short part where you just have to take out from the passage, write the meaning, rephrase it in your own synonyms by using your own synonyms, and in the effect it analyzes the bigger picture. The bigger picture means the whole game starts from this thing, right? So for effect, it would be the impact on the reader's mind. For example, my dear students, I'm going to give you the example. Listen to me very carefully, be all ears right now. So whenever you plan to write, you have an idea what your goal is to writing. You are writing to inform, whether you are writing to recommend, whether you are writing to suggest, or whatever that plan is, you pick out words according to it, and your choices of sentence structure are in accordance with it, right? So then you are able to successfully explain the effect, that what this particular phrase creates the effect. Okay, so when you're doing that and you make a particular choice in writing to satisfy your writing goals and objectives, and when the reader reads it, he needs to be able to understand that specific objective you're trying to explain. And if he understands that, it means that you are successful in creating that, right? So just to give you like in a more of an icebreaker here before we land into the main paper and all the questions which you just have seen on the previous slide. So if I say here, let's just take a look on the instructor's examples for reading for meaning first, right? So if I say grinding my teeth, I passed him a grim smile, right? So these are terms which mean something and they have some effect and they are there for some effect. So let's see what you can tell me about the meaning of it. If you actually understood, you can pause my video, write the meaning of it in the comment section below, and then I'll be definitely approving that what kind of style do you carry actually, right? So when you are it's explained here in detail that when you are grinding your teeth and giving a grim smile, it doesn't mean something pleasant is happening. So this means that the person is angry, right? Here it means that the person is infuriated. Choice of words, I must say infuriated means angry. It's just a synonym I've used here. You can use annoyed. The choice of words is the effect that the involved character is angry with someone. So this is how a writer chooses his vocabulary. And the effect is going to be an emotion, a feeling, a description of the atmosphere or a character, right? So let's check out the other example. They were casting a last look back at their former home. So again, this word last look, which I have straight away encircled that, and it creates a nostalgic kind of feeling, right? And the choice of words tell what impact he creates. So as a reader, as an examinee, you need to check the context. You need to scrutinize the context basically from the given expression to be able to write the exact thing which is meant, of course. So there's another example here. Let me just move on towards the next slide. I hope you've understood this reading for meaning. These two examples, these are actually the detailed examples which I've explained you. We students basically don't understand from what have they given and how we have to explain and what is the inferred meaning of it, but you need to practice the past papers as much as you can. This is another tip, that you need to work on practicing the past papers so as to of course get yourself a desired grade, or else you can even join my 3 months crash course so as to ace in your Olevels English exams. Okay, let's move on to the next slide. Here I have made, another instructor's examples, which is reading for meaning, and I would want you to please pause it and give a reading to it and understand what, basically this whole passage, creating the effect, this whole passage's effect. What does this passage, creating the effect? So I just wanted to know about it. You just can pause it, you can write and mention in the comment section. Okay, so my dear students, it's the instructor's examples reading for meaning, and that is, it was the last day of term, the start of the long-term holidays. For 6 whole weeks there would be no more marking, no more teaching classes, and above all, no more rushing out in the mornings. He had made it to the end of another school year. So here in this whole example, they are showing us the sense of accomplishment. Something has accomplished, something is ending up, something has quickly finished up. So it's all about, for the 6 whole weeks there would be no more marking and teaching classes, and he made it to the end of another school year. So this part, I am telling you that this is actually, if you go back, this is going to be the writer's effect, writer's craft, meaning and effect, where you have to understand the effect. And this whole paragraph is, creating the sense of accomplishment, where you have to explain in detail your, being a critic, you need to explain that what actually it is, creating the effect of. And it is a rather challenging, because 9 crucial important marks carried for this effect part, and I would really want you to work on this part, practice, take out different extracts from the past papers and practice them as much as you can, because in all these types of questions, the last part is the most crucial part, where you have to work on in the reading for meaning, right, and effect. Before it was of 4 marks, now it is of 9 marks. 9 whole marks carry a huge sum of marks, which you can achieve by practicing, obviously, right? So this is just a very you can say short kind of example which I've given you, where I've told you that what actually the effect the writer is creating here. So being a critic, being a literature person, if you are able to identify what the writer is creating the effect, then you are successful in you can say explanation. You're explaining the text in the reading for meaning and effect, right? So I hope you have understood the whole thing through this PowerPoint presentation which I've explained you in today's session, and stay tuned for more useful content. And if you really want me to upload more useful content, you need to comment in the comment section below, and stay connected with me. I am going to definitely upload the narrative writing samples, the directed writing parts, which are extremely important and easy. If you practice and work on them, then it will definitely assist you in attempting it in a more vigilant manner, right? So I hope you have understood this. Thank you so much for watching my today's video. Stay tuned for more useful content, and stay tuned with English with Palvasha. Don't forget to subscribe my channel. Allah Hafiz.